All right. Welcome everyone. It's an honor to be your host today. During our time together, I'm going to help us explore Dr. Melissa Lopez Larson's coursework on bullying, Stop the Cycle. We're going to be multitasking together with three mediums. First, your computer screen on our Zoom for video and interactions. You're going to put on your phone in menti.com. And then in case anybody needs that code again, it's right at the top, 6935772. So this evening's discussion will center around bullying and how parents can help stop the cycle. But first, I'd really love to find out more about you. Tell me in Menti, what ages are your school children? So elementary, middle school, high school, or maybe even you have older children as well, if you'll just let us know. And for those of you who aren't in Menti yet, we'd love for you to join us. You just go to menti.com and type in that code 6935772. Okay, so looks like elementary parents and then mostly elementary and then split between middle school and high school. Perfect. Well, welcome everybody. Next, are you new to parentguidance.org in our mental health series? Is this the first session you've attended? Or have you joined us before? So if you are new, we are so glad you're here. Thank you so much for being here. And again, we apologize for those technical difficulties we're having. So welcome. If this isn't your first time, welcome back. Okay. So the coursework for today's class has been created by Dr. Melissa Lopez Larson, a practicing psychiatrist helping her patients achieve mental wellness. Dr. Lopez Larson graduated from Harvard Medical School and has worked with adult, adolescent, and child psychiatry for over 15 years. So tonight we've come together to have a conversation around bullying. And I'm interested in knowing what type of bullying has you the most concerned. So is it bullying at school? Is it social media? Perhaps it's sports, or maybe it's even bullying in your own home. Maybe it's between brothers and sisters or other family members. But we're going to talk about all four areas today and how you can help stop the bullying cycle. And it looks like a lot of people are worried about, that bullying at school or maybe the bullying at home between siblings or cousins or family members. So let's quickly take a look at the topics we'll learn about today. The first thing we're going to do is define bullying and determine who gets bullied and then who is likely to become a bully. We're going to discuss the dangers of bullying through social media, in sports, in school. And finally, we're going to discuss how to stop the bullying cycle by learning to empower your child and be aware of bullying in your own home. So we've all considered mean people in our lives, right? But what is the difference? When is someone considered a bully versus someone who's just being mean or maybe acting like a jerk, right? Is there a difference? So Dr. Melissa Lopez Larson is going to explain the difference between the two. So let's listen to her now about the definition of bullying.
So let's jump right on in and let's talk about what bullying is. Now, bullying is a persistent and deliberate misuse of power in relationships that intends to cause physical, social, and or psychological harm. Now, it can involve an individual or a group of individuals who are misusing their power or perceived power over one or more persons who feel unable to stop it from happening. Now, bullying can occur everywhere. It can occur in person, it can occur online, in various digital platforms. It can be obviously done overtly or covertly, meaning either it's obvious to everybody or it's kind of hidden in more of a secretive fashion. Now, bullying most often happens at school and via social media, but it can occur anywhere, including extracurricular activities such as sports and hobbies, and even in the home setting. So to recap, let's highlight the three key components of bullying that I find is really important for our parents and caregivers and the community at large to truly understand what bullying is. That one of the main key components is there has to be a power differential or a perceived power differential. It happens to happen repeatedly. It has to happen repeatedly over and over again, or at least the intention to happen over and over again, which we'll describe later. And it also has to be intentional. So in other words, the person doing the bullying is in fact intending to harm that individual, in whether it be physically, socially, or emotionally. There's always single acts of nastiness or spite out there in the world, and that does not constitute bullying. There's also random acts of aggression or even intimidation. And sometimes individuals of equal social stature or physical stature might actually get into a physical fight as a one-off, but then the physicalness of that event doesn't continue on and on. There's always mutual arguments, disagreements, or fights that can occur between kids and teens and even adults, again, that only occur on occasion, and there's no necessary intent to cause significant harm to that individual. Those are the types of things that I like to point out that bullying is not. Now, it's not as if these actions don't cause some kind of distress, or maybe they may in fact be quite hurtful, but they do not fit the definition of bullying, and they're not an example of somebody being bullied, as it's not deliberate and it's not repeatedly happening over and over again.
So again, everyone, thank you for joining us. We're sorry about those technical difficulties. And you might have realized that the sound isn't going to sync up exactly with the video and the sound, because we're playing the sound from another source. But we were adamant to make this work, to be here with you tonight. So thank you for being patient with us and a little flexible as we are doing a workaround. So next, now that we've learned about the 3 aspects to help recognize bullying, let's learn a little more from Dr. Lopez Larson. Remember, bullying is repeated and it happens on purpose. So let's learn a bit more.
This is a very well-known and more recently studied fact that bullying of any form or for any reason can have what we call short-term immediate effects on our kids and teens, and more problematically, long-term effects on those, including those who actually are bulliers. And this can also include people who are bystanders as well. It often leads to feeling of isolation, alienation, and sometimes depression as well. It can lead to anxiety, particularly social anxiety, and in some cases, even PTSD. And these feelings and symptoms can persist into adulthood. Oftentimes, I see bullying affect people's self-esteem, their trust in relationships, which is really problematic for peers who are really trying to learn how to have healthy relationships in their peer group. And this can really set them up to feel like they cannot trust individuals, and it's very hard for them to continue to open up and form the precious bonds that they need to during this stage of development.
All right. So on your phone in Menti, and for those of you who are just joining us, please go to menti.com and join us so this can be as interactive as possible. But, even with what we've learned so far, share with us, what do you think bullying is? How can we recognize those signs or those clues? What do you think? And again, know that all of your answers are anonymous. All the cameras are off, your sound is muted, and that allows for a safe environment for all of us to share together. And this is one of those word clouds. So the more you use a word, the more it will show up. So tell us in Menti, what is bullying? What do y'all think? I think the main point, the huge point, is that being the bully is trying to obtain power and control. Yeah, and one of you says relentless teasing. That's absolutely bullying. And again, it's that idea of power or control. Yes, intimidation, absolutely. The distinction Dr. Lopez Larson shared with us is so important. Remember the definition that we've learned about so far. Bullying is not just a mean person that picks on someone, maybe because they're short. Short kids and tall kids are just what we'd find in any school. But bullying is also not just a random one-off fight. It is a relentless, repeated, consistent, constant, and deliberate misuse of power in a relationship. So let's try to understand more about the power dynamic Dr. Lopez Larson was explaining. Together, we're going to explore more about who becomes a bully and who may become the target of a bully. So let's listen now.
And control, both for those getting bullied and those who are doing the bullying. So those individuals who are most at risk for bullying include those individuals who have disparities in power, or at least perceived power. So this could be in the physical realm, the mental realm, social and financial realms. So for an individual who may be short in stature, who may not be as socially mature as some of his other peers, if he may come from a home that doesn't have the financial needs as some of the others in the community, these could all be considered disparities in power, or at least perceived power. Other risk factors include anybody with a history of mental health issues, particularly depression, anxiety, low self-esteem, et cetera, et cetera. Those with a history of domestic violence in the home, or even bullying in the home, are also at higher risk for bullying outside of the home as well. Other things to consider are minority groups, racial differences, the LGBTQ community, and other minorities that are different than the average student in that either school or environment or community.
Okay, so let's turn to Menti to review. Okay, so we're going to play a quick game of truth or lie. And which of the following is a lie? So number one, bullies are confident in themselves. Number two, bullies are seeking power and control. And number three, bullies affect someone's trust in relationships. So once you answer in Menti, hit that submit button to share your thoughts with others. Okay. So let's look at all of these individually, okay? Bullies are confident in themselves. That is a lie. Bullies are usually not confident. They tend to have low self-esteem, but it's not just low self-esteem. It's really a low level of effective or affective empathy. Okay, less focus on the feelings of other people. They tend not to consider the feelings of their targets or the suffering of the people they're targeting. Bullies are seeking power and control. That is truth. Bullies often feel a lack of power or control and are trying to obtain that by bullying. Okay, so if you're feeling strong and fortified, you don't care really about what other people say about you. Okay, now this last one, bullies affect someone's trust in relationships. This one is also truth. Bullies create a pattern of targeted, intimidating, or humiliating behaviors, which can absolutely destroy trust. So that inability to put themselves in another person's shoes sets up this behavior. In other words, it's really hard to bully someone if you can feel that suffering or how much that other person is suffering. So with that in mind, let's go back to Dr. Lopez Larson and let's learn more about who bullies and why.
Those who bully do it for a variety of reasons. One includes seeking attention. I typically see this a lot with younger kids. Also, those who've been history of being bullied also sometimes will then revert to being bullies themselves. This is, I see this both in kids and teens often. Another risk factor for our kids or teens being bullies is if they've learned this behavior in the home. This could be seen through domestic violence in the home, or even bullying by peers, cousins, siblings, or other family members. There may also be peer pressure or even adult or parental pressure to bully. Other considerations is poor self-esteem. They may feel weak and they might project those feelings of inadequacy onto others, and then they will take it out on them. And lastly, one of the things that I see often is the feeling of power and need for control. And many of you do not feel like they have control in their lives, and this provides a taste of that.
So bullying is about seeking power and control. Okay. And I've noticed the way people's comments even affect me has way more to do with how I'm actually feeling in that moment and if I'm keeping up with my own mental health. How does what people say affect you mentally, emotionally, and physically? If someone is in a low place, the negative comments may validate what they're already thinking or feeling about themselves, which gives the bullier the sense of power and control over their target. Okay. So we've now learned more about the dynamics going on between a person who bullies and those being bullied. But how would you know if your child was being bullied, especially if they don't tell you? Okay. Dr. Lopez Larson is going to share with us the warning signs to watch for.
Let's talk about the warning signs. How do we know if our child or teen is being bullied? One of the things I often tell parents is, most of the time, especially for older kids and teens, they will not tell you. And we'll talk about some of the reasons for that in a minute. But I want you to be particularly open and cautious and be looking out for any major changes, whether it be mood or personality. Are your teens or kids more down? Do they seem more irritable? Are they isolating more? Do they seem more anxious? Do you find them crying in their room alone? Do you notice any changes in their appearance? This could be their hair, clothing, makeup, or they might even be gaining weight or losing weight rapidly. You may notice changes in peer groups, or they may no longer be hanging out with the same friends that they used to. They may refuse to go to school or even skip school or classes. You also might notice increased physical symptoms such as headaches, stomach aches, and other ill-defined symptoms. You take them to the doctor and they can't find anything wrong. So parents, caregivers, teachers, if you see any of these types of signs or warning signs that something is going on with a child or teen, I want you to ask, I want you to talk to them, and I want you to open your ears and open your eyes to some of these signs and symptoms, because oftentimes kids and teens will not share why or what's going on with them, especially if the reason is that they're being bullied.
All right, parents and caregivers. So what we know is that communication is the key. If you observe major changes in your child, ask a direct question like, is someone bothering you at school? Or are you being bullied by someone? Sometimes just asking the question, being direct, will open up the space to have a conversation and create that connection. But understand that the way you respond may also cause the child to avoid the topic with you, for fear that you may intervene beyond what they're comfortable with. So absolutely, it's a fine line to walk, and it's not easy. But the first place to start is by asking questions and then zipping it and then just listening. So be direct, ask, and then listen. So there are many things that parents can do to support their child if they're being bullied. So in Menti, pick which option is true, and then we're going to talk about these strategies together. So how can you help your child if they're being bullied? So number one, let's walk through these together. Number one is listening to your child openly and calmly. Focus on making them feel heard and supported instead of immediately trying to find out the cause of the bullying or trying to solve the problem or even getting mad. Make sure that they know the bullying is not their fault. Number two, build your child's confidence. Maybe put them in activities that they enjoy and that they might excel in. That will help boost their confidence, and also surround them with other children of similar interests. And then, so important is tell your child that you believe them. Okay, that you are glad that they told you, that it's not their fault, and that you're going to do your best to find help. That really is so validating for a child to hear. And number four, what did all of you answer? It is definitely all of the above. Okay, so we want to listen to our child. We want to build our child's confidence, let them know you believe them. Okay. So I know a big concern, and one of us that as parents we're all worried about, is bullying on social media. It's such a scary time. I have a daughter. She is 12 and she just started the 6th grade. So I'm super worried about social media bullying. But we know that social media is the new norm, okay? And with that comes new ways to harass, often without parents ever even knowing something is going on. So as our devices become part of us, so does the exposure to online bullying, and it's also known as cyberbullying. So let's hear more about cyberbullying now from Dr. Lopez Larson.
Cyberbullying is just bullying, but using some type of technology, whether it be texts, online posting, was it pictures, videos, video games, etc. Now, the scary thing about cyberbullying is it can actually be done anonymously, and sometimes it's difficult to detect. The reach of cyberbullying is also worrisome in that it can exponentially reach hundreds to millions of people very quickly, which escalates the seriousness of the potential harm to somebody else. What can we do to help safeguard our kids against cyberbullying? Well, first and foremost, parents really need to have oversight of your child's online presence. Like, I want you to consider it their brand, and you don't want to taint their brand, because that brand is going to follow them for the rest of their life. And so having clear expectations and boundaries around social media use is extraordinarily important. Make sure you educate them, make sure you're monitoring them, and let them know that you're going to be monitoring them as well. Nothing is worse than a teenager finding out that their parents have been spying on them, so to speak. So be upfront with it. Let them know that this is a privilege and not a right, and that you will be monitoring their technology for specific signs of things like cyberbullying. Now, parents, if you do find out, though, that your child is being bullied online, again, similar to what we talked about in one of the other earlier modules, listen and be open. Again, they maybe were fearful that when you tell them about the online events, they actually might lose their phone privileges, their social media privileges. So they don't want to give that up. So they may actually not want to talk to you about what's going on online. But I think if you say, hey, listen, I'm here to be a source of support. In no way are we going to take this away from you. We might monitor it, help you problem solve it. And we're not going to punish you for others' behavior. I think you can set the stage for some open honesty, transparency, and communication. One of the other things that I tell parents to consider is just talking to their child or teen about just walking away. I mean, the beauty of it being online is you don't have to respond. The other thing that you can easily do or have your child do is block the individuals who are bullying them. And again, if the bullying continues, it's overly scary, it's concerning, or involves any type of, whether it be photos, pictures, etc., you definitely want to get the law enforcement involved as soon as possible, and potentially even schools as soon as possible, depending on the severity of the issue.
Okay, parents, I'd like to hear what you think about how often do you think social media bullying is on your child's mind? How often do you think social media bullying is on your child's mind? So in Menti, take a moment to reflect, and this is really to help kind of bring awareness to what your child may be dealing with. So tell me, how often do you think your kiddo might be worrying about bullying? Okay, most of you say weekly. Okay. Thank you for sharing that with us. So in that case, we know that there is definitely something going on in their life, that they're either hearing about it, witnessing it, or it's happening to them. Okay. So again, this is a great question for you to ask your child, maybe after we're done with this webinar. Tell me, how often are you worried about bullying on social media, or what do you see? Just open up that conversation, which is also that chance to connect as well. So parents, being involved in your child's social media participation is going to give you insight and a heads up of what's going on in your child's life. Just like we don't hand a teenager a car, without proper training and getting their permit and spending hours with them in the car, monitoring them, we shouldn't provide phones or devices or tablets without first establishing some guidelines, boundaries, safety measures, around this phone or device. And it's important at the very beginning to really set up this open communication with your child, not only because you want to set those boundaries and those expectations, but if you're not open, hey, I'm going to be monitoring your social media because I want to keep you safe, that can cause a whole lot of heartache and confusion down the road, because your child may say, oh, you're spying on me, right? So remember, as parents, it's our responsibility to guide and protect our children the best we can. So stay involved, ask questions, and be their support system. Okay, not necessarily the ruler over their device. Okay. So between the ages of 12 and 15, these are the years that cyberbullying is most prevalent. Nearly 37% of young people between the ages of 12 and 17 have been bullied online. And 30% have said that it's happened more than once. Okay. So what do you do if your child is being bullied at school? You're again going to watch for the signs of being bullied and ask your child questions. If in fact they are being bullied at school, Dr. Lopez Larson is going to tell us what else we can do.
When kids don't feel safe, they just don't learn. They, instead of learning and retaining information, they go into survival mode. And that can mean a whole slew of different things depending on the child. Now, if you do feel your child or teen is being bullied, consider working with the schools, so the teachers, the administrators, the counselors, to determine what is the best course of action. Now, remember, the school staff are on your side, and we really want to develop a working and a collaborative relationship with them. This is the best approach to address bullying in a school setting and beyond. Well, the first thing that I always recommend parents do is just find out what your school's anti-bullying policy is. All schools should have one, and it's important to learn what the policies and procedures are for your individual school, because they can vary. Now, this is just a starting point to familiarize yourself with what the school feels its role in bullying is, and what are the punitive actions, what are the consequences, and how they typically go about addressing bullying in their system. The other thing that I always recommend is making sure the policies are age appropriate. We want to make sure we're not using the same approach for a 6 or 7-year-old as we would, say, a 16 or 17-year-old. Obviously, younger children need a much different approach to manage either being bullied or bullying behaviors than, say, a teen. Learning what the leadership at the top feels about bullying, making sure that the atmosphere is positive and there's a collaboration between administration and teachers and students is an amazing way to ensure that your climate at school is positive and that the needs of the teachers, staff, students, etc., are being met.
All right, so turning to Minty again, let's talk about physical and emotional bullying. Remembering that the definition of bullying is a power differential, repetitive, and intentional. What about the social and emotional toll caused by excluding peers from group activities or spreading harmful rumors? That too is a form of bullying. And you may be surprised to learn that there's a study that suggests when a child is excluded from social activities by their peers, the outcomes for that child, both short and long term, will be just as detrimental or harmful as if they got kicked, punched, or slapped every day. Okay. So in Menti, yes, it is both of those things, both physical and emotional. So now I want to turn to and listen to an example of bullying at school.
The girl at school today told me I'm ugly.
Is this the first time she's made fun of you?
Yes, I feel really sad because she is bullying me.
This is not really bullying. Someone saying you're ugly once or twice in passing is not a case of bullying. Do you want to practice what to do if this happens again?
Yeah, what should I do?
Perfect. So parents, this is not a case of bullying because while that was a nasty comment, it's not constant. You know, there's no hostile intent behind the comments, and there doesn't seem to be any real or perceived imbalance of power. Okay. So in this next example, let's look at a different scenario and see this something that does represent bullying.
Every day at lunch, the same girls come over to my table and make fun of my clothes and call me ugly.
Is this the first time they've made fun of you?
No, it's not. They do it every day in the afternoon.
How long has this been going on? The fact that they tease you every day and it's consistent, you're definitely being targeted and bullied.
I know. I want it to stop.
I'd like to help you learn how to put a stop to this.
Me too, but how?
So parents, this is a scenario that represents bullying because it is creating a hostile environment. It's targeting the same person and repetitive. So it's happening over and over again. And that's causing a sense of power imbalance between the bully and the target. So remember that it's important that kids feel safe so they can focus on learning. If they don't feel safe, then surviving becomes the primary need and learning takes a back seat. Okay. If you notice a drop in your child's grades, their mood, or maybe they're getting irritable, or maybe you're facing a daily battle with them not wanting to go to school, okay, something is probably going on. Something is probably wrong. So worry less about the behavior and focus more on the reasons behind the behavior to get to the root of the problem. I know when Layla was in elementary school, there was a certain, this was, I think, the third grade, there was a certain class period she would always go to the nurse's office. It was the same class period. So I kind of started putting two and two together. And, you know, it turns out there was something going on in that particular classroom. And she was sitting next to someone who was giving her kind of a hard time. But as soon as I recognized that pattern, I was able to address it. We were able to get to change her seat. And then, you know, things became better. I know that some of these issues aren't that simple, but you'll want to notice the pattern or patterns, you know, when it comes to when our kids may be triggered or we're seeing their anxiety, or you notice those changes in behavior or mood. So next, let's turn to bullying in sports. You know, when you sign your kids up for sports, you hope that they're going to have fun and they're going to get exercise, you know, and they are going to learn new skills. But nothing is more heartbreaking than discovering that your child's sport activities are being overshadowed by bullying. So let's learn what this may look like from Dr. Lopez Larson.
Now, unfortunately, though, there are very high rates of bullying in many of the sports that we engage our teens and kids in. And the bullying is just not limited to other peers, but I've also seen coaches also bully students and kids and adolescents as well. Now, bullying in sports has been normalized over the years, and it's oftentimes considered normal hazing, or we're trying to build, mental toughness But this is not really the case. So taunting and name calling, derogatory nicknames, pushing, tripping kids, snapping with the towel in the locker room. These are all kind of forms of actually harassment and bullying, especially if they meet the criteria for bullying. Now, if your child or teens begin to show signs of distress around a sport, this is going to want you to pay particular attention to what's going on. Now, if your child wants to quit a sport that they previously loved, has frequent physical complaints around the sporting event, or appears to be excluded by the team or coaches, then you may want to consider that perhaps there's some bullying going on. And remember, though, it's very hard for kids to walk away from sports that they love, even if the culture is negative. They're also very, very worried about snitching or what the ramifications are for quitting and whether or not they might lose friends just because of that. And so also we want to keep in mind that some kids and teens are hoping that maybe the sport might get them into college, or maybe they're thinking about professional sports. And so there's a lot more at stake for them. So they might just kind of either go along with the bullying culture, or they may become really quite quickly disillusioned and back off completely, despite having a lot of great skill or talent in that sport. Healthy, happy kids makes happy teams, and happy teams are winning teams. And if you kind of go with that kind of an attitude, I think you're going to get a lot of people on your side, whether it be other parents, coaches, kids, etc. Because sports should be fun. It should be collaborative, and not everybody, has to be the all-star on the team. Teaching kids how to lose respectfully, how to participate, how to cheer others on. These are the types of skills we want our kids to learn.
Again, sports should be fun, and sports offer a lot of teaching and learning opportunities, but we have to make sure that your child is being taught the importance of respect for themselves as well as their teammates. And furthermore, hazing and harassment has no place in the sporting world and should not be tolerated. As mentioned, teammates or even a coach can be the bully at times, and parents and players should not allow that behavior to continue. What you need to do is document any inappropriate comments and then immediately approach the administrators with your concerns, okay? So how as parents can we stop the bullying cycle? We talk about it, and we teach our children to be respectful to others. And teaching our children starts in the home with you, the parents.
And lastly, parents and caregivers and everybody out there, I want you to remember it's very important to keep your own feelings and emotions in check. Bullying can be a real trigger for others, like parents, especially those who have been bullied at some point in their past as well. It may bring up a ton of really strong emotional feelings. But again, I want you to take a deep breath, check your own emotions, put them at the door, and really be present for your child to discuss what's going on with them. So again, parents, there's a lot of different ways to tackle bullying, and there's no right way or wrong way for any individual situation. So let me give you some examples of what to consider when you want to start thinking about how to address bullying with your child. Now, honestly though, a child will always be hurt, when they're bullied, but the amount of harm that actually occurs to that child is more related to how they feel about themselves and the amount of power that they give to the bullier. So helping them change that power differential, taking back their own sense of agency and who they are, and knowing that they can negotiate these difficult relationships is going to help them grow as an individual and prevent some of these situations from occurring in the future. So again, when kids understand how they have the power internally to put barriers up to being harmed, they often immediately will start feeling better and feel more in control in their lives. It's truly about giving them the control back and helping them eliminate this power differential, or at least that perceived power differential that them and potentially the bullier may have between each other.
So as parents, we need to empower our children. We don't want to just tell them, oh, ignore it, it'll go away, because that can have negative effects on your child and also the situation, because most likely it won't just go away unless something is done to stop the cycle. Agency means to have a sense of their own ability to impact what happens next. So parents can really focus on building resiliency in your child. We want to build their self-esteem and help them see themselves as strong individuals. We want to teach them to stand up for themselves, to tell the bullier, to stop or say, leave me alone. We want them to feel empowered to say those things to the bully. But do you know what makes the most difference is when we teach our child to stand up for other children by standing up, if someone else is being bullied, to say something if they see something. By saying something to the bully, they can really boost their own confidence, but also create a culture that we're not going to be mean to each other, and bullying is not tolerated. It's not allowed. Okay. That's how we build community, and that's how we build a culture of kindness. So what we know is that this feeling of connection is one way to combat bullying. So let's hear more about stopping the cycle.
Now, the other major system that I consider when I think about bullying or bullying behavior is the family system. Relationships in the home are key and central to how our kids and teens will develop relationships later on in life. So if there's healthy relationships in the home, your kids and teens are going to be much more likely to develop healthy relationships outside of the home. So I always ask parents to do a self-reflection and just to sit back and look at the relationships and power dynamics and equality and trust and the amount of respect that each individual shares or shows in the home. And if there's areas that need to be worked on, then as a parent, that's a perfect opportunity to learn and teach different types of healthy relationships. We can talk a lot about kindness and compassion in the home. And I always ask parents to sit down and think about what are the key values that you want to maintain and propagate in the home setting, and figure out how to do them in the home, and then think about how you're going to do them outside in the community. Now, parents, I want you to pay particular attention to any type of bullying in the home or within the family system. This is often a big setup for bullying happening outside of the home as well. And oftentimes parents will not notice bullying, like, oh, well, boys will be boys, brothers and sisters or brothers and brothers will always fight. And that's not necessarily the case. And so I really want you to work on teaching boundaries and self-respect and treating each other equal and developing those bonds of trust in the home and eliminating any type of violence in the home, power dynamics in the home, bullying, etc.
So it's important, parents, to take a minute to evaluate the climate in your own home. So I want us to turn to Minty right now, and I want you to picture yourself in a quiet corner of your home as an observer. And I just want you to take a minute to close your eyes and reflect on the climate that you see or hear in your home. So through Minty, reflect on the behaviors that you see or hear. And again, your answers are anonymous. So this is a really good exercise for us to all be honest with ourselves about the climate in our home. So as you are listening, you're up in that corner and you're listening and you're watching. Does the environment sound hostile? Is it either verbally or physically hostile, or are parents or siblings threatening one another? Maybe it's just really loud, and that's okay because that's how some families are. What about teasing, or maybe persistent ridiculing? Maybe it's one particular child that's always kind of the brunt of all the jokes or all the teasing. Okay, is there any cooperation? Are your family members, are they taking turns playing or helping one another? Or maybe do you see, is there one or more child that's being treated unfairly or differently than the others, or held to a different standard? you know or are your children being judgmental toward one another? So how does that impact the feeling of safety? So, again, it is our responsibility as parents to ensure that the environment in our homes is safe for our kiddos. And if when you did that exercise, you were a little bit uncomfortable with the climate in your home, that's okay. We do this and we go through these webinars and these, mental health series so we can reflect on that and take action. So I really encourage you to talk to your family about what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and together make a plan to increase empathy and decrease unkindness. And maybe what you heard or felt or saw was amazing. In that case, have a family meeting to say, I'm so proud of how our family treats each other with kindness and respect. Family meetings don't always have to be negative, right? Okay, so when considering your home climate, think about how things are being said. So, for example, it can be hurtful to a child if you say, why are you letting other people get to you? It would be more helpful to say, it took a lot of courage for you to tell me that. And another one is that it could be hurtful to say something like, well, you shouldn't care what other kids think. Okay. And y'all, I have said that to my daughter before. So, I talk to myself when I say it would be more helpful to say, I'm always here to listen and support you. Okay. So, what are the words coming out of our mouth? Are we being kind? Are we being respectful? Heather Dory is a teacher who writes about how she helps middle school students who are bullying survivors by forming positive bonds with her students. She talks about the importance of helping students build trust in her, trust in themselves, and trust in others. So think about how you can set the stage for your child to build positive bonds with family, friends, and peers at school. So parents often ask how they can prevent bullying in their children's school. And here are 6 things that can help. And in Menti, if you want to put a dot on the one that you're going to focus on over the next month. So number 1, educate your children about bullying. Again, what is bullying? What isn't bullying? Talk openly and frequently to your children. Be direct, ask those questions, and then listen, right? Number 3, help your child be a positive role model. Number 4, help build your child's self-confidence. Number 5, be that role model. And number 6, be a part of their online experience. So at the Cook Center for Human Connection, we're really driven by the mission of bringing together resources that have demonstrated effectiveness in creating the human connections that are vital for strong mental wellness. One of those resources is parentguidance.org. It's a free resource that's backed by therapists who share different courses for parents on all sorts of different mental health topics. So you should have a link on your phone in Menti if you'd like to explore further, but I'm also going to share my screen as well. And I want to just walk you through parentguidance.org just for a moment. And I know y'all were so patient with us at the beginning. We just have a few more minutes and then we'll be done. But wanted to show you parentguidance.org and wanted to let you know this is my favorite thing about parentguidance.org is these courses. When you click on these courses, there are all sorts of different topics. And as you scroll down, you'll see all the different courses that they have, not only on different topics, but also developmentally where your child may be, whether it's elementary, middle, high school. But when you scroll all the way down, here's where you can view the library by topic. And this is my favorite. So, your family could be dealing with something really specific, and this is where you can go and look at that. So maybe it is, you've got a preteen in the home, preteen in the home. Maybe it is self-harm, or maybe suicidal ideation, or even just depression or insecurity. Okay. And there's all sorts of resources for just parents as well. This parent self-help, which I love. And then I want to show you about the Ask a Therapist section. This is a chance where parents and caregivers just like you have gone in and used this speech bubble right here to ask one of our therapists, one of our parentguidance.org faculty members about a specific question that they have. So as you go through here, you may see that you have a question and it's been answered. Okay. But if you haven't, use that thought bubble to do that. And then your district has provided parent coaching to you. So it's like having your own parenting assistant, and it's one-on-one coaching. So if you want to take advantage of that, you're just going to click register for coaching, and it'll give you the instructions. And again, that's been provided to you free of charge by your district. So as we close up, let's get this full screen again. What have we learned about today? Okay, so we first learned, what is bullying? We defined the true meaning of bullying, which is persistent harassment or targeting, and with the intent to overpower. We talked about bullies and their need to overpower due to their low self-esteem. To help avoid becoming bullied, empower your child, teach them the resiliency to stand up for themselves and to stand up for others. That builds so much confidence. Okay. We learned more about cyberbullying, bullying in schools, bullying in sports. And we talked about stopping the bullying cycle by getting involved immediately with teachers or administrators, asking questions, listening and believing your child, and then evaluating the environment in our own homes to ensure that we're providing a safe environment for our child. So as we close up, I'd love to hear, what are a few things that you're going to remember from this evening's conversation? Is there a special takeaway that you are going to leave this evening with? And would love for you to, in Menti, just share with us if there was something that stood out. I know for me, it's always that listen piece, because when my daughter, if she starts telling me someone's mean to her, boy, who's mean to you, where instead I just need to ask those open-ended questions and be like, well, tell me more about that. And how much is it happening? When has it happened? Right? Someone says bullying starts in the home. Teach by example. Yes, but parents, is that not so hard? It's that whole do as I say, not as I do. So I know that, I go through these webinars and I'm always like, okay, Christy, this is you too, right? All right, everybody. So what is next for y'all? On December 15th, we're going to be doing de-escalating cycles of conflict. Okay, so that's on December 15th. If you want to use your phone to scan that QR code, that will allow you to go ahead and register. I'll tell you that even if you don't know you'll be able to attend, go ahead and register, because it will send you reminders. But if you're unable to make it for some reason, we do record all these sessions and then make sure y'all have those so you can either refer back or you can watch if you've had to miss. Okay.
Christy, actually, for Alachua, they don't require any pre-registration.
Oh, okay.
So if you will just click to join, or scan that QR code the night of, and I believe on their website, they'll have a place where you can access the recordings.
Okay. Well, thank you for stepping in, Sandy. I was about to lead them down the wrong road.
Well, we got them back.
Yes. All right. Well, we learned so much today from Dr. Lopez Larson, and my hope is that you will listen to your child, watch for signs, and get involved quickly if you suspect bullying, and take a look at the environment in your own home to ensure that it's a safe place for your kiddos. Everyone, thank y'all again for joining us tonight. We went 7 minutes over. We were 11 minutes a little late to start, but thank you for all that you do. It takes, to take an hour out of your evening to learn how to be a better parent is commendable. And I say, I salute you, and I hope you have a wonderful evening, and we'll see y'all in December. Bye-bye.